You've come by the Alumilite ETI booth today, and we're going to be demonstrating a couple products. The first one is called Amazing Casting Resin. It's a fast cast white urethane resin that allows you to replicate items or pour it into molds to make little replicas. So we're going to be using these silicone molds today, and we're going to kind of show you a couple techniques of using resin, and then we're going to transfer over and show you some epoxy products that we have and how we do some pouring over items to make some really neat looking items. So let's get started here. With the silicone molds, you can preheat these in the microwave to warm them up so that just they're warm. You don't want them hot to the touch, but just so they're warm, and that will facilitate the resin curing. So we have the Amazing Casting Resin. We're going to mix equal parts. So I have a little measuring cup here. I'm just going to mix.
You can also use a heat tool to heat it up.
1 fluid ounce of each of these.
I'm like the one person with the main tank.
And actually, before I add the part B to this, I want to show you a little product we have here called Alumidust. And it's a powder pigment. And I'm going to choose a cluster of flowers here to kind of pre-dust. And by doing this, when the resin is poured in behind it, the resin will bond to the dust, and you'll pull out a piece that is really beautiful. It will have this color all on the face. So rather than adding the powder into the resin, you're brushing it onto the mold. Alright, so we have that little cluster, and it goes into this one. We'll do all this right here.
That's cool. What other products could you use to do that? Is that like a mica powder?
It's like a mica powder, so there's metallic ones. You could use metallics.
I did not think of that.
Yep.
Okay, we have a lot of mica powder. Does it have a binding agent? Or it's just the dust?
Well, the resin basically bonds to all the particles. Yep.
Wow. Ta-da! Genius.
Alright, so now this flower kind of went further than I thought it went, so that's good. I'm going to just take this over the trash can and dump out the excess. Okay, so now that's ready to go. And we'll go back to our resin. I'm going to add one more. Of this. So we're going to mix 4 total units together. So that's 2 ounces of that side.
I find that when I put too much, it dries up as by the time I finish pouring it.
Yes,
so
the more resin you mix at one time, the quicker it can cure. So you have to understand that if you're going to mix larger amounts, you need to work more quickly with it or pour it sooner than later. Yeah, we'll do that. So we'll pour one of this, we'll pour one plain, and then we'll add dye to one. All right, so we have our resin. We're just going to go ahead and gently mix it. It's really clear and thin, so you're not going to have issues with air bubbles because they're going to basically come right to the surface. And you're looking for the resin to be clear before you pour, making sure that you scrape your sides, scrape your bottom, and even scrape your stick off to make sure you don't have any undermixed resin. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pour this flour. Then we're going to pause really quick. I'll pour one white.
Don't do the pink one. Yeah, do something else. Just do one on pink, not the pink.
Yeah.
And we'll put the red in behind the pink.
And we kind of have to move quickly here because resin cures really quickly.
No.
Hold on.
We're going to put red in that one.
So after we pour this, for the last batch, we'll add a little dye to here. And we'll pour one that just has straight dye so you can see what that does.
Cool.
When this cures by itself, it cures to a bright white. So the dye that we just added probably is going to make more of a pink casting after it cures, even though it looks red right now.
Is that just straight dye?
Yep, this is resin dye. It's called Alumilite dye. Put it over here. And with these pieces that have a lot of detail, the only thing you can kind of do is pour over the top, and then you can take a stick and kind of squeegee it in to make sure it gets into all the detail. Okay, and we'll take a stick and we'll just pull it right over. Now I really poured a lot on there. You didn't need to pour that lot, but for the sake of time, we want to make sure that we get all those cavities filled. And then we'll wait anywhere from, with these thinner sections, it might take 10 or 15 minutes, but we'll be able to pull out some hard plastic pieces in a moment.
Cool.
So now we're going to transfer over to some epoxy here.
Look at the cool pours that he already did before. How neat are these? Wow.
All right, so there was a white opaque resin that's going to cure within another couple minutes. It'll actually turn to a snow white color. We also have a clear resin that we use for doing everything from complete countertops, doing wood, to doing tumblers, to doing canvas. And you can, if you look right over here, you'll actually see the resin curing that we just poured. So this white resin cures very, very fast. It'll normally be ready anywhere from about 5 to 20 minutes. You'll be able to pull those pieces out of the mold. And it'll pick up the exact detail of your original, and you're ready to use it. So if you pull it out a little bit earlier, it'll actually be a little bit soft. You can actually form it, which is a really neat feature of those as well.
Cool.
So while those are curing, we're going to sit here and we're going to start mixing up some of the Amazing Clear Cast. This is a 2-part clear resin. It's a 1-to-1 mix ratio again. So we're just going to mix equal amounts. We'll mix about 1.5 ounces of the A. Maybe, we'll go to 2 ounces, 2 and 2. And this is where we can mix a bunch of colors in. We can do traditional, what's, acrylic dirty pour type stuff, or we can do a bunch of other different techniques that give you some absolutely beautiful results. All right. So, equal amounts. Simply mix the resin until all the swirls are gone. We don't want to whip it like we're whipping a beaten egg because we don't want to introduce a lot of air. This material will take overnight to cure. We give it about an hour of open time so the air bubbles have time to come up and pop on their own, so we don't have to worry about them. The white resin it's a lot thinner, so we don't have to worry about the air bubbles, so we can make it cure much, much quicker. So you can see the material is slightly cloudy. We'll keep mixing that until it clears right up. And then we'll be ready to split it up into a bunch of different versions so we can add color, and then we can start doing our pours. It's very important to keep our pieces flat and level because it's going to take a long time for it to harden up. So we want to make sure that it doesn't all just flow off one side. So make sure your pieces are level and flat before you pour.
Please join us in the Creativation talks here 2:45 to 3:15 p.m. today in booth 1413 and learn with our expert.
So we'll mix this for about 2 to 3 minutes, kind of at a minimum of this, to make sure we have a completely thorough mix. There's no swirls, and then we'll be ready to add our color. We picked some blues, some gold, and a little bit of white.
It's a resin pouring. Somebody saying it was late. It's a resin pour, right, that we're doing?
Yes, this is a 2-part epoxy resin pour, correct.
So what's the difference between regular resin and epoxy resin?
So resins, there's a bunch of different types of resins. So you have urethane resins and epoxy resins and polyester resins. So an epoxy resin is just one version of a type of pour, but the reason why epoxies are so well known and used for these applications is they're very forgiving. Number one, they're very durable. They give you a very high gloss coating, and they allow you to basically use it over tons and tons of different substrates. You can use it over wood or canvas or tile or anything, and it works extremely well. Some resins have an issue with moisture, so they don't like to use over wood. Some of them smell really bad. Epoxies, there's very, very little odor to them. They're very good, and they can take color, and they're extremely easy to use. So now our resin is completely mixed. We're going to pour this in a couple different cups. And then we're going to add some different color to it. So we'll do 4 different colors. Here we mix some gold powder in with some. So we'll add some gold to this. It's one of them. Here's some Alumidust, a sky blue Alumidust. We can
think I have this at home.
We can do some.
And I used it wrong. You can use this in molds too, right? The resin?
Yes,
I think I bought the wrong one and I by mistake used it
Oh.
into a mold and it took forever to dry.
Oh.
I didn't realize that.
So we're gonna add some white here, but I like to put some pearl into the white to actually make it more of a pearlescent white.
Oh, nice.
And now we'll mix these guys up individually. So we'll mix the gold. You can see how this turns into almost a... And this is the difference between doing an epoxy resin pour versus doing like a paint pour. A lot of people will do acrylic pours. You just don't get the pearlescent, the depth, because it's all opaque. These are actually translucent, so you can actually add depth to it and you get layers and different effects. Also the gloss factor. And it's a simple one and done. When we pour this and we walk away from it, it's done. You don't have to come back and do a clear coat or anything else because it's already done for you.
So could you use like a heat tool to kind of move it around?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And you can. There's things that you can do with alcohol. There's things that you can do with tons of different methods.
Alcohol.
This is
Alcohol
like,
inks.
alcohol inks. You can spray
Oh, while it's
alcohol
still
over
wet?
top, and you can spray alcohol over top, and it'll kind of give you some of these bubble type looks to it.
Oh, so the bubbles were done with alcohol or with like silicone?
Yeah, normally we use alcohol because silicone's not ever going to cure. It's just going to lather on top, and it's going to give you. It can also interfere with the cure a little bit. So, most of the time you'll use alcohol rather than going to some type of other chemical, right? So.
And how long does it take for the alcohol to react? Does it react right away?
Yeah,
Or
it
does
basically
bubble-
lays right on top and it'll actually evaporate and flash off, but it makes things kind of coagulate and kind of pool and come together and pull. So, so if you want to compare this, you want to do like similar to a dirty pour, or do you want to do some? What would you like to do?
Whatever you. Yeah, that's what I like. Or this kind, like this. Yeah. Which is the same. Yeah. Oh, look.
Yep.
Yeah, dirty pour is fine.
All right.
Whatever you want. I like when they mix and they become like they have all these like lines. But this is too even for me.
Which is?
These two are too even.
Ah, gotcha.
I like it when they're like messy.
All right. Let's see what we can come up with then.
Oh, so you're putting them all inside the white.
Yeah.
Put dirty pour.
And what we can do now, how much we could actually just pour this, or we can actually swirl it a little bit and it would make it a lot tighter. So if you want the bigger splotches,
Yes.
we wouldn't stir it. If you want it more tight line, we would actually
No, so
swirl
don't
it a little
stir
bit.
it.
What's that?
Don't stir.
Yeah,
All right.
we like
We like the big splotches.
All right. So let's do something like this.
Would you ask him about the health precautions we should do using this? This is stunning. Any health precautions we should know?
So really the biggest thing is never work with any type of chemical in real confined spaces. There's very little odor. Obviously, you're all standing around. We don't smell anything to it. Obviously, wear gloves. Keep things off of your hands. Keep it out of away from children. Small children without parental supervision.
Pets,
and that type
yeah,
of stuff. Pets. So this is a great thing to do. Now, from this point,
That's stunning.
What do we want to do with it? We could actually pick it up. We could actually drag through here. We could do where we can add some motion to it, right?
That's so pretty. I'm like, oh, I have this at home. It's the blue one. It's the blue box, right?
Yeah.
Can you spray some alcohol in it to see?
Yeah, sure. Do we have? Is that alcohol?
Yep.
Or sprinkle. Oh, that's stunning.
So I'm going to just spray it on my hand and just kind of let it drop. And you'll actually see what's going to kind of happen here.
It's like separating it. Whoa, that's cool.
Okay. Makes it disperse.
That is really nice. This makes it easier. The pour makes it. I wasn't successful with acrylic pour.
This is, and then you can just come back and kind of paint the sides if you want to paint the sides and the corners and that type of area. Obviously, this is just a small little sample board, but you can see the techniques that we're talking about. I mean, it's just it's really endless what you can do and what you would want to do with this.
And how do you clean the sides after? Like I see some of them have those drops underneath.
Yeah, so if we were just doing this ourselves, like at about the 2 or 3 hour point, you could come through and you could smear them underneath, or you could even kind of scrape them off. One of the biggest things is just to make sure this is completely level, right? You can kind of see here the white edge on this one, it's kind of sliding over, right? So we want to make sure the pieces are completely level. Obviously these tables and the floor and everything else, but
Moving the table.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay. Looks really cool. But on.
So
Up here.
Yeah, I know. Helium fumes. I agree.
So this is the cure time of this is you want to wait overnight, and these will harden up. That's why we give them a long open time so the air bubbles can come up and pop.
You can do it in the summer, outdoors.
The other thing that you can do,
I know, but it's the fumes.
Yeah.
So the other thing that you can do is if you want to add like cracks, like granite cracks and stuff like that, you can do something as simple as, right? And you can.
Cool.
Oops.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to do. Oh, I love that. Even splatters at this point. Oh,
So
like a mosaic.
You can add features like
I love that.
So it's really just endless, you know, with how much detail or what you want to do with it, and
What's the working time? Like an hour?
yeah, this is about an hour before it'll kind of thicken up to the point where.
Yes, you can wear a mask and have a good ventilated, those really strong ones.
So what else do we have? Do we have any?
Could you sprinkle some powder in it? Will it taste as powder?
Yeah, it'll pretty much more lay on top. I would. You could actually mix it in with the alcohol when you spray it. That's a really cool way to do it.
Yes, yes.
Because then it gives you that pearlescent wherever it fell. Now all of a sudden you'll have pearl, like kind of pods of it. It almost looks like fish scales almost.
And does it resist water?
Yes. Yep. I would not put water on it when it's liquid, but I mean after it's cured, you can think of like even like an Outback Steakhouse. All those tables basically have an epoxy coating on them. That's our material.
And it won't yellow with the sun or anything like
Well,
that?
it will. All epoxies and all resins are going to yellow over time. They all will. I don't care. Some will last longer than others, but things like this you will never, because of the color, or if you put it over wood, you will never know because it's such a slight tone change. You'll just never know that it weathers or turns like. Now, if you had something that was completely white, a white canvas, white artwork, and you're doing something in a year or 2 years down the road, yes, you might see some different yellowing or antiquing to it.
Right.
But most of the time, you will never notice it, but it will yellow, and that's something to make sure you know.
That's good to know.
So, people say that their stuff is UV stable. I'll just tell you, there's no epoxies that are long-term UV stable. Some are more resistant than others, and we build our products with UV stability in them. But we would never tell you long-term that they're going to be UV stable.
Put your face in it.
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, he was talking and I was like, Okay, so now we're going back to.
Yep,
oh,
we're
God,
ready
there's
to
a lot
demold.
question. I don't know what it's.
I did take a heat gun and kind of heated the surface up because all these little thin areas where I squeegeed over, those would take time to cure. So I helped them along with a little heat. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start with this guy. Let's see here. Some of this detail was really fine, so the finer the detail, sometimes you have to wait longer to demold it, but we'll see if we can get some out here.
I find it really easy to take out.
Yeah. Reinforcements. Yeah. No, you're fine. They're different.
It's hard to tell if they're connected
It's still
or not.
soft though, right? That's
Well,
why.
this one I think is just the skin that was in between. So if you squeegee it harder, you wouldn't have as much flash around the outside.
And you can cut that off with even with scissors.
Yep,
like that.
scissors or a little X-Acto knife.
Yes, these are the Prima molds, and we just brought them to make some demo for the demo because we didn't have enough pieces.
Yeah, if you would have scraped this mold a little bit better, then you would have had a lot without the flashing.
Oh, I love that piece. That piece is beautiful with the violin or cello, whatever that is. That one is harder. You can feel it when you're taking it out.
And sometimes you can just peel this away as well because it's so thin.
These are thin molds. The other ones look thicker.
Okay. All right. Now let's try this white one here. This is just the resin as it comes out of the bottle. It cures to a bright white. And again, we didn't wipe this one at all, the stick, which we should have. So I'm going to bring it all out in one piece.
Oh wow!
So this one you just dusted the.
Yep, we dusted with it, and all the powder lifts out of the mold where the resin touches.
That's brilliant.
Yep. So you can really take your time and use these powders more precisely and use different powders with each other to add highlights to, sometimes you'll take just powders on your finger and work them down into the little nooks and crannies and they provide accents.
That's
And
very
you have a
cool.
color and back.
Very nice. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
No problem. Thank you guys for stopping. And if you have any questions, visit our websites, alumilite.com or eti-usa.com, or give us a call and we'll answer any questions that you have.
And if they want it, they can get it at
Amazon.com. too.
Amazon.com. Yep, it's readily available.
I'll put the link below so you guys can see it. Okay, I always sell it from that because everybody loves it.
Great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Appreciate
much.
it. All right.
Okay,
Take care.
bye.
Bye-bye.